Hi, this is Travis with Holden Advisors, and if you've been watching the Pricing with Confidence video series, you've probably picked up some tips that will help improve your pricing practice. Hopefully, you're using the improving practice plan that goes along with these videos and will help you identify the next steps you can take to improve your price setting. Well, today we're going to shift our thinking a little bit from price setting to price getting. Having worked in a variety of different pricing initiatives, I've learned that you can have the best pricing models and price setting techniques. But if you haven't developed the price getting skills of your sales team, then your price structure can often fall apart in the price negotiation. That's why Rule 8 is build your selling backbone by teaching sales to negotiate on value. Successful price getting requires effective negotiation prep. But to put this into perspective, let me share an example with you from one of our clients. They were in the purchasing position, and they were preparing to find a supplier for a $20 million contract. To negotiate that contract, they identified 20 individuals, gave them 4 months and $1 million to identify the supplier and negotiate the deal. How much time and resources do you think the supplier was given to negotiate that same contract? More importantly, think about your own organization and how much time and resources you have invested in selling, on the selling side of a negotiation. Rule 8, or outlines in the chapter on Rule 8, it talks about several steps that we can do to improve our negotiation prep and to make sure that we're negotiating on value and not just price. Let's review these steps. Step number 1 is to conduct a value analysis. This was covered in Rule 2 by Ellen. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go back and look at it. She provides some really helpful insights. Step 2 would be to conduct a buying center analysis. The CEB reported that on average, a purchasing decision is influenced by a group of 6.8 individuals. Step 3 would be to evaluate the buying behavior. In Rule 4, Adele talked about the 4 buyer types and watching out for that pesky poker player. Step 4 would be to determine your coverage strategy. With so many people influencing the decision, how are we going to connect our value to each one of those individuals? Developing the offering. We know that price is going to be negotiated. So is our offering structured in a way that allows us to negotiate on value or only price? Developing your primary negotiation approach. How are you going to start the negotiation? And how will you anchor your value in the minds of the buying center? Step 7 is to anticipate the customer's response, and not only what you expect the customer to do to changes in the negotiation, but think about your competitors and other market factors that might influence the negotiation. Step 8 is to develop your secondary negotiation approach. Too often we fail to scenario plan based on the reactions we anticipate, and we get caught off guard. So the purpose of these 8 steps is to prepare for the negotiation and to avoid reactionary pricing, or what we often call as desperation pricing, which always leads to discounting. So we don't have time to discuss all of these rules today, but I've identified a couple that I want to talk about that I think will have the biggest impact and are most often overlooked. The first would be step 2, conducting a buying center analysis. Most salespeople report that they work with 1 to 2 primary contacts within an organization. But we know that there can be over 6 people that may be influencing that decision, and with each one having a different priority. So this means that half of the people that are contributing to this decision process don't know or understand the value that you deliver. So to help us out, let's look at the roles that these 6.8 people could be playing in this buying center. The first and most important is the true decision maker. This is the individual who will make the final decision, and they are often hard to find. If you are working with somebody who has to go and get approval for changes in the negotiation or during the negotiation process, chances are you're not working with the true decision maker. Influencers are another key role, and there's usually more than one. They often will fill a specific role, be it finance, a technical expert, maybe a consultant, but they have opinions that the decision maker trusts. The more that you can identify, the better. Think of how powerful your position would be when you have 2 to 3 individuals taking your message to the decision maker. Users encompass the operational leaders, and they are going to have to integrate your products and services into their business. Quantifying value is critical to users. They need to know that doing business with you will translate into process improvements for them. Maybe it's time savings, reduction in resources, improved production, eliminating downtime. These things have an impact on their day-to-day operations, and it matters to them. Buyers. In a small company, buyers could be the decision maker. But more often than not, and what we often see in large companies, is that buyers are individuals who are tasked with procuring supplies according to the guidelines provided by the decision maker. Keep in mind that the more critical your product and service is to their overall success, the less power the buyer will have in the final decision. Let me share an example that illustrates this point. One of our clients sells components to major manufacturers. Many of the components are fairly common and can be supplied by a number of different competitors. But one of their products was highly differentiated and was a critical component that was not easily interchangeable. When it came to the common products, the purchasing manager had a lot of power and would often switch suppliers based on price. But when it came to this highly differentiated product, the purchasing manager overstated their power and indicated that they would be purchasing on price as well. Well, this concerned our client because this highly differentiated product did not compete well on price. So in the end, they decided to offer an alternative solution that was more price competitive. The purchasing manager couldn't authorize this change, and so they went back to the technical team to see if this new solution would fit their needs. What they discovered, and what we discovered, was that the technical team had already spec'd in our client's differentiated product and was now putting pressure on that purchasing manager to get the supply and to get it fast. This allowed our client to close the deal without any price competition. This also illustrates another common role in the buying center, the gatekeeper. Gatekeepers are often buyers that are positioned to control the flow of information, ensuring that decision makers have the information they need to make the right choice, but limiting the information back to the suppliers. By limiting access to the decision makers, gatekeepers are better equipped to play poker and apply pricing pressure because they can set up a scenario where all the suppliers are the same. If we look at these different roles that people play in the buying center and spend more time on step 2, identifying the members of the buying center and the role that they play in that final decision-making process, we will be better equipped to identify the buyer type in step number 3, to determine the coverage strategy that we should use in step number 4, and to determine our primary negotiating process in step number 6. So let's talk about let's talk about steps 7 and 8 together. The other steps that I think are often overlooked. Anticipating the customer's response and preparing your secondary negotiation strategy. Most of the negotiation theater that sales is subjected to is designed to put them on their heels. Buyers want to ask tough questions and apply huge demands and give them little time to respond. This puts pressure on the sales team to give the buyer what they're asking for, which is usually a discount. It's time to turn the tables. Consider this common scenario. You're sitting in a price negotiation and the customer asks for a discount. Is this a surprise to anyone? No, but the most common response that we hear is, all right, let me go back to my office and see what I can do. Now the seller has to have an internal negotiation with their own organization to determine what the value of this customer is to their company. With a little bit of preparation, we can turn this conversation around. Let's consider the same scenario, but with a different outcome. Now the seller says, we anticipated that you might ask for a lower price, so we have considered an alternative solution that's 20% less expensive. To get to this price, we are pushing our 7-day priority order fulfillment to a 21-day based on availability. Now, the buyer has to go back and have an internal negotiation and determine what value is most important to their organization. Consider the impact that anticipating the customer's response and identifying a secondary negotiation response would have in your negotiation confidence. If we could do a better job at identifying the people in the buying center and the value that they care about, and anticipating the reactions of our customers, the responses that they'll have, and keep that conversation around value, you'll see a dramatic improvement in your price getting. I hope that you've heard at least one thing today that can improve your price getting. We know that it can be difficult to transition the work that you're doing in price setting to a sales team in price getting. Remember, price and sales are striving for the same goal, but you speak very different languages. If you're having difficulty or struggling with your price negotiations, then consider Reed's other book, Negotiating with Backbone. It's helped sales teams around the world close deals with more favorable terms and avoid unnecessary discounting. Keep watching our Pricing with Confidence video series. You won't want to miss Rule 10 and a note from Reed himself. Leave a comment and share a story. We always love to hear from you. Until next time.